Cole Sprouse went on the Call Her Daddy podcast yesterday, and he revealed a lot. He talked about being a childhood star and his experience working for Disney and why it was so different from most child actors. He also opened up about a lot of family stuff and even talked about his breakup with his ex, Lili Reinhart. It's a mess, so let's get into it. So, when I saw Cole was going on the Call Her Daddy podcast, I was honestly so excited. I grew up with The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, and it was one of the biggest shows on Family Channel. It was right in the prime days of Disney with Hannah Montana and Wizards of Waverly Place. It was truly the best era of TV to grow up in. But, as you guys know, a lot of ex-Disney and Nickelodeon actors have been coming forward with horror stories about being a child actor and being forced into a world of fame and business at such a young age. We had Jeanette McCurdy come out last year with her book, I'm Glad My Mom Died, which was filled with so many heartbreaking stories about what she went through as a child in that environment and having to support her family and a lot of the traumas that she had because of it. The Call Her Daddy episode is titled Cole Sprouse, Exploited for Money and Fame, but it sounds like he had a pretty different experience compared to a lot of stories that we've heard from other child actors. To start off, Alex pointed out that Cole came to the studio with no one. He was completely alone, and she found that to be a nice change because a lot of these people come there with a whole entourage of like 20 plus people and publicists telling them what to do and say. So him coming alone was a really good sign that they were going to have a very open and honest conversation. They started off at the very beginning of Cole's career. Cole and Dylan were booking diaper commercials before they were even a year old, and Cole said it was because his mother needed the income. We hear that a lot from many child actors. A lot of them actually came from nothing, and it was the parents who put them through acting, knowing how lucrative it could be, especially as twins. When Dylan and Cole were babies, Mary Kay and Ashley Olsen would have been in their prime, and twins were highly sought after because of them. Cole explained how kids could only work like maybe an hour or two a day, and having twins to switch out and divide that time between was really appealing for producers.
I think there's two types of kids within, the child acting business. The thespian children that choose to do it. And then there's the working class kids that in our case at least, twins are a great labor exploit because babies can only work for a certain amount of hours, so you double the time if you have two of them that look identical.
I was thinking about that of the child labor laws of how you have a better way to monetize.
I too often think of child labor laws, yes.
It meant getting the job done faster and ultimately saving them money. It was actually Cole's mom who was really fascinated with the industry. His parents were divorced, and his dad wasn't as thrilled by them stepping into acting.
You and Dylan booked your first acting gigs before you were even 1 year old. What did your parents explain to you as to why you were auditioning so young?
I mean, it started really as a means to put bread on the table, also allow my mother at the same time to be a mother, but to make her main focus and her job our careers.
His dad was very blue-collared, had a rough upbringing, and he really felt like his dad kept them grounded and led them on a good path while trying to navigate this newfound fame. It sounds like his dad taught them not to take things too seriously, but also knew that this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and they needed to take advantage of all the opportunities while they still had them. A lot of times we hear from child actors just how resentful they are towards their parents for choosing this life for them and ripping their childhood away. But Cole feels differently. Cole said he isn't resentful at all towards his parents because they didn't come from much, and now he's been granted this life of financial stability. He does recognize that he had to trade his childhood to have that stability now, and he knows there's still some unresolved issues he has to work through, but he doesn't regret it, and he would still do it all over again today. He went on to say that he did have a very different experience being a child actor compared to other children in the same position. He feels like since they were young boys and not girls, they didn't have the spotlight on them as heavily, and they're extremely thankful for that. He talked about how the fascination was on Miley Cyrus and Selena Gomez and how heavily sexualized they were from such a young age simply because they were girls, and it's so true. Miley was really put through so much public scrutiny and shamed over growing up and outgrowing her Disney image, and her whole life was under a microscope from such a young age. There was so much pressure on her to be a good example for young kids and uphold her Disney image, all while she was a teenager herself trying to figure out who she was and doing teenage things. Cole did say that they did go through a lot of the similar trappings, but they're thankful the lens wasn't on them so heavily while they were going through those things. He also thinks the fact that they looked 8 years old when they were really 13 and had these short little bowl cuts probably helped keep them out of a lot of trouble. Alex kept asking him about Disney, and I almost got the feeling she was trying to dig into it to see if he would come out and say like, yeah, Disney exploited me and I hated them. But Cole didn't do that. He says he feels like he gets asked about Disney a lot because people want to poke the bear and try and get him to say how horrible Disney was, but he saw Zach and Cody as a life-saving opportunity. He said it provided them with a routine and the stability they so desperately needed during that time.
I mean, to be honest, I get a lot of people asking me like, oh man, you really went through the gamut. Oh man, all this. But in very many ways, it was like, you know, the golden ticket from Willy Wonka. It was a great means to an end.
Alex started talking about all the different childhood actors she's had on the show and how different their experience has been from Cole's, and he had a really interesting take on that. Cole said a lot of those people might be coming from privilege, and he thinks it's easy to complain about the business approach that these companies have when you really don't need the money. He talked about how child actors can go into it as a passion, only to find out that these companies are all about money, and it can be really disappointing for the child actor. But if you're a kid coming into acting from a working class background, the money is extremely exciting and you view it completely differently. Now, Cole did say that he didn't want to discredit anyone or take away from their experience because he knows how hard it can be to be a child actor. But he does feel like being a Nepo baby gives you a much easier time to complain about having a boss when you come from a place of privilege and not really needing that money to survive. He also talked more about his mom and how financially irresponsible she was and how she lost everything at one point. Cole said at the end of the day, she's human and he doesn't really blame her. He said it was only 3 years ago that he finally stopped financially supporting his family once he hit success with Riverdale. Cole said his dad put a lot of his life on hold to support him and his brother, so he has no problem helping his dad out financially. He wants to be able to buy his dad a car if he wants it or a house, and it sounds like he actually likes being able to do those things for his dad. He said many times that him and his dad are super close. His dad is like his best friend, but his mother isn't in his life anymore, and he says that's the biggest heartbreak of his life. And then he got into his past relationships, specifically with his Riverdale co-star, Lili Reinhart. Now, when people found out Cole would be talking about Lili, a lot of people had mixed reactions. So many people found it odd, especially since the episode was being released on International Women's Day. One of the top comments is, "This being released on International Women's Day feels like a personal attack." And for those of you who don't know, Lili and Cole dated on and off for a few years, and they officially announced their breakup back in 2020 on Instagram. Lili opened up during an interview about how hard the split was, even describing it as a black tunnel that was never going to end. During Call Her Daddy, Cole said he was cheated on by almost every single girlfriend he's ever had, from emotional cheating to actual physical cheating. He admits that in the past, he wasn't the greatest partner either. Alex asked him if all his girlfriends had emotionally cheated on him, had he looked within himself to see if he wasn't giving them something they needed? And Cole said totally, and took a lot of blame for it. Alex then brought up Lili, and she asked him how he navigated a breakup with someone he was still actively working with. Cole said it was really hard, and it meant that they didn't have the distance they needed to heal.
You're gonna want to light the cigarette for this one.
Great.
You had a relationship with a castmate on Riverdale.
Mm-hmm.
How did you navigate a breakup with someone that you work with?
Ooh, it was really hard. It was really hard for both of us. And that's okay. I think the work thing got difficult because it was hard to suspend all of the way we felt about each other. And it didn't afford us the luxury of distance to really overcome that. We're good friends now, which is awesome. We work really well together now. We were in a foreign city working a very intense schedule, 14 hours a day, oftentimes 6 days a week. And we really leaned on each other while also going through the elected trauma of this incredible overnight success, a ton of criticism, a ton of expectation, and I think we did the best we could. I really do think we did, and I'm very grateful in very many ways, I was able to go through it with someone who was going through the exact same set of circumstances as me. But also, in very many ways, all the cliches about dating someone you work with are very true.
Do you think it lasted longer because you were working together?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
When asked why the relationship ended, Cole said he didn't want to get too much into it, but he does say it was a mutual decision. Alex started to push back a little bit harder, saying no breakup is ever mutual, and Cole finally admitted that he apparently left.
Why did the relationship end?
I won't go into that too much, but I will say it was mutual.
Can I tell you something?
Please.
I promised myself today the word mutual. I was going to call you out because someone had to have made the first step to end it.
I left.
You left.
I did.
Thank you.
And let me just say, there's been a lot of mixed reactions to this interview. A lot of Riverdale fans are super upset that he's talking about Lili and saying that he's the one that left, while others feel like he handled the questions really well. I think the main negative thing that I've seen said about this interview is the fact that he was smoking throughout the entire thing. Even though he asked Alex if he could smoke and she's the one that said yes, a lot of people still found it to be really rude and inconsiderate and just gave a lot of people the ick. We had people writing, "The smoking inside though. The smoking gives me the ick. The cigarette smoking is so performative too. Oh my god, the cigarette is so cringe. Like you have to smoke indoors at this very moment? No way." Other people felt like he was being super stuck up in the interview, writing, "His whole personality in this interview is ick. Who does he think he is?" The interview was giving, "I took one English class at the local community college and now I'm gonna mansplain politics to you." While others felt like he was very mature and had a very mature outlook on his time working for Disney. One person said, "Love that he can point out he was exploited while also appreciating the advantage it gave him in life." So yeah, a lot of mixed reactions to the interview, but that's honestly expected. So many people are going to find it rude that he was smoking inside, and others are going to think it's no different than someone using a vape during an interview, which is very popular nowadays. I do think Cole kept it as respectful as possible when it came to talking about Lili. I mean, he was kind of backed into a corner and almost forced to come out and say who left, but if you're a huge fan of Lili, you might see it differently and think it was completely unnecessary. Overall, I do think he handled himself pretty well. Anyways guys, let me know what you think about everything down below and I'll see you next time.